Hey there, everyone. I hope you are all doing good. Stasma here. Today we are going to take a look at the 264T. I'm going to explain what's a sample and hold, what's a track and hold, the difference between the two. Also, we are going to talk a lot about art, because this thing does have 4 art output, which make it the sort of go-to quantizer to use inside the 200T series if you have the 259T that has the art as a tuning protocol. It makes it very easy to make very nice and well-tuned polyphonic or melodic line in general. That's it. Let's go for it. Have fun. First, let's have a look at the interface of this module. It is a quad sample and hold. These 4 columns are each one sample and hold. And at the bottom here, we have what's called the Polyphonic Adapter that we will see later on. We are first going to check out what's a sample and hold, in case you are not familiar with what it is. It also can behave as a track and hold. I'm now going to demonstrate to you both of these processes. Let's use this oscillator in low mode. I'm sending the CV out to the control voltage input. And now this one, also low as a square wave, to be used as my clock at the pulse input. And now what I'm going to have at the control voltage output will be that rising ramp being dissected into steps. Let's hear it with the pitch of this oscillator. It's annoying, but it's the best way to understand. All right. Static pitch for now. So this is the one being chopped up. We can hear. It's actually a falling ramp. And if I speed up this one, I have more steps. So the clock is the number of steps, and the length is determined by whatever you put into this. You can find some very interesting rhythmic relationships. And some sort of patterns. Some sort of arcade trills. Now let's switch to track and hold. Let's make this one faster so we can hear it properly. Maybe you can hear it now. This one very slow. So track and hold will let pass through the voltage at the input when the gate is high, and when it's low, it will be held at the last value it was at. Sample and hold. Track and hold. The noise, being always at a random value, is sampled at the rate of this clock. The original one was designed for CV only. You couldn't sample audio, but here we can. Also, we have an offset generator that will add a static voltage to all the outputs. So we can instantly make the result lower or higher. A funny thing is that if we start to use this for multiple things, we can add a modulation signal to this. But let's do this for two different oscillators. We'll add another falling ramp. This one is rising, this one will be falling to the second input. I will give it the same clock. This was the signal we had before. And I've added this one to the game. Now I could add a sine wave from a third oscillator here, so I could modulate the two that I have already, the two that I'm controlling from the sample and hold. I could modulate them at the same time from this one. Okay, so let's talk about art, how to set it up for the first time. Here I have connected all 4 art outputs to all 4 individual oscillators. If you want everything to be in tune, everything should be at minimum, all the frequencies and fine-tune knob. I can hear a tiny bit of beating here. I don't mind, but especially for the first time, when you get all the modules together, you might want to hold that button to make the initial tuning procedure. So let's hold it. And now they start to tune. I don't recommend listening to it. So I will cut it and we'll wait until it's done. Okay, so now they are all tuned again. So this was the initial tuning, the one that you want to do basically when you change your system. Make sure you have left your oscillators running for 20-30 minutes so that everything is warmed up properly before doing it. And then if you notice that, or when you are using the system at some point, things seems to be weirdly out of tune, just press that again once, which will start the auto-tuning procedure. So right now I have the 4 lane of a 245T going to each of the control inputs. I'm going to copy the all out to pulse input 1. And we get a sequence on oscillator 1. Now I'm going to take A, patch it to pulse input number 2. So I have a 2-note chord, 3-note chord, four-note chords. And this is without using any envelopes or whatever. This is the patch between the drone and rhythmic state. And now we have only the envelope playing each of the voice separately. But as they meet, they create chords. If you have a look here, when in quantize mode, you can change from minor to chromatic to major. And here you can change the root note. And you can add, of course, an offset to the overall thing before quantization. Let's play again now that it's in D sharp. Modulation does have a strange effect on art that we will see in a dedicated chapter later on. Same patch but with the Tobinsky sequencer instead. Much more complex results. Also using the T2T in low pass gate mode instead of VCA. If you want to detune everything or make it a bit less properly tuned, you can play with the fine tunes. Might notice that on one oscillator on the 259 the pitch goes up and on the other one the pitch goes down, just to achieve some sort of nice chorusy beating. I also like to introduce some modulation in the middle of this. Creates a weird life. Just in case you don't have the art available, you can use duplicates of your clock inputs. Use them to trigger envelopes. And we have music. Weird, but cool. Let's add just one pulse to A. Clock a third channel over here. And we can do some interesting feedback thing, like using one of the oscillators as the control voltage input, being sampled here. And use the analog out to control whatever parameters, such as the timbre. And let's clock one on every pulse. Send a fluctuating random voltage at the input. And use that as a random voltage generator stepped to control the envelope length of the second oscillator. So this was using only the 4 sample and holds. A bit of art, a bit of analog. Remember that the offset will be added to both the art and the analog outputs. It's probably obvious, but the 242T and the 264T together are very powerful. I guess that's why they've been released close together. Okay, let's take some time to dive in the polyphonic adapter section. Let's put everything to sample and hold. If you want to use that polyphonic adapter part, first thing you have to do is to put that separate common switch to the right position. From there, anything you plug to the CV input is going to be sent to all 4 sample and holds. I'm going to take a simple falling function from 281. Then you need a clock at this input. Here I'm sending the pulsar of a 245T, and you can see the blinking lights going to one voice after the other. Here you can choose 2 voices, 3 voices, and up to 4 voices. From there, you have to connect all these 4 pulse out to the pulse in. The module in its original form, the 4 you formed, we're using shorting bars to connect those 2. I recommend using stackable so you can send those gates somewhere else after when you are not using the art. If you are using art, you don't care because you will get gate outs from the 259T or whatever other art module you're using. And now you can connect your CV out or art out to your oscillators. Back to a more regular setting with less modulations, and using the touch keyboard from Verbose Electronics as the input, CV going to the common CV input of the 264T, gate to the common gate input. It's a kind of perfect fit because I'm able to quantize it in minor scale, whatever, even if I'm playing only on the big touchpads, which are the white keys. And I like that because I've always felt on this keyboard that the black keys were harder to get and harder to get the pressure right. So now I can play only on my white keys, choose my root note scale. Let's go for D sharp now. The trigger is a bit more responsive, so now I'm going to make more percussive sounds. I was using the filter mode, the 292T, and now I'm using the VCA mode, which I find quite nice. It makes the sound tinier, but in a good way, for especially for polysynth kind of things. Another thing I quickly wanted to mention was to compare the Oct 2 volt per octave quantizer with the 264T. Of course, this one, as you can see, was made for the first Oct line, the main Oct line from Tiptop. And this one is definitely more made to be integrated inside the 200T system. I've been having a lot of fun with this one as well. So I just wanted to quickly demonstrate like the very basics of those two. The main difference is in immediacy. This guy does not have any menu or whatever. You just plug stuff into it and it works. Let me just demonstrate something though. So we are going to use both to be quantizer from a sequencer. Let's use the Tobinsky one because we can see it here. For example, this, if I take output 1, which will be this sequence, patch it at the control voltage input. Gate 1 to pulse input. Art out to the 259. Right, let's play. So this is exactly what I wanted to show you. You see here that I don't have that many pitch changes. I only have a gate out when the pitch change over there. So let's plug that to an envelope. Okay, this is what I have now. Thing is that Oct is a digital interpretation of an analog voltage in that case, and there is a range to it. Here, I know this output is 5 volts. So if I'm too low, basically I have nothing. But I can remedy that using the offset. And the offset on the oscillator itself. Now I can be at the lowest voltage and have something. So this is one important thing to know if you are not using 10 volts out sequencers. The Tobinsky sequencer does have the 1 plus 2 output that is 10 volts. Let's use that. Much easier. And you can easily get pitch tracking by using the analog out. Okay, so if I want to do the same thing with this guy, first you have to choose the mode, mono, and you can choose for each lane if it will be calibrated to receive a different voltage. So let's stick to 10 volts and see what happens. CV out at the input, gate out at the gate input. I have lost the key tracking. I could do it like this. We don't have the same thing. It doesn't have the same range. It doesn't work exactly the same way. So now if I take out 1, which is 5 volts, come and change it. To 5 volts. The only thing that really is that you will miss on this is the ability to make chords with this one, because it has a chord board. I'm not going to demonstrate it right now, but whatever. That's it. This is the difference between the two. So I've said in the beginning that the modulation input is supposed to work only with the analog output, but it does actually work with art in two strange but useful ways. First, when you're in sample and hold mode, I have that cycling function sent to the mod. The mod is at 0 right now. So you see, if I play the same note over and over again, I always have the same note. Makes sense. But if I start to add some modulation, I now have basically this signal being sent into the art processing, and it will basically pick up random notes based on the modulation that you send in. It's quite random. It's very hard to make it do anything really planned. But it can be a way to add randomness whenever you want using the knob. Here's a quick example. Second, and even more interesting use is that when you set the switches to track and hold, the modulation is being sent to the frequency of all your oscillators while the gate is held. And at the end, when you stop holding it, it will pick up a random note. Hear this out. This is pretty fun. Let's now do the same thing with the sequencer. So this is the track and hold behavior. These two are the gates, and these are the voltages. Now if I set it to sample and hold, this is what I have without modulation. If I start to add the modulation, I start to have random notes added to that before repetitive sequence. Back to 0 modulation. Okay, so I still wanted to show a few patches not using the art, but still in a polyphonic and melodic context for people who might not have the 259 and we don't plan at all to use the art. So I've summoned the Bard Quartet from Shakmat, which is a quad quantizer. I've grouped the 4 channels so I can edit the scale of the all 4 channels here. It's the Tobinsky sequencer giving the pitch and the gates. And it sounds like this. Like most analog sample and hold, this is not precise enough to be sent already quantized or calibrated pitch signal and spread it across the 4 voices. It always sounds weird, everything gets out of tune, so it's better instead to quantize the output, which is what I've done here. One other subject I wanted to touch here was that, especially in this kind of setups, but also with the art, any attenuator or utility type of modules will be very handy, especially if it can mix. Yeah, for example, I can scale the output of the sequencer. But I could also add another voltage to it. In that case, a fluctuating random voltage from the 266. So it will start to mess around with the signals that we were quantizing before. You can decide to mix that in or out whenever you want. Let's check how it sounds with a bit of 808. Adding an offset either from your mixer attenuator thing if you have one, or straight from the module itself can be a good way to transpose your sequence up and down. Okay, so last fun thing. This is why it's fun to have 4 of these. I'm going to use that function here. Attenuate it here. And send it at the control voltage input of the first channel. I'm going to use whatever clock available, the one from the 880. Separate command switch on the left so I can use the individual sample and holds. I'm going to quantize that. Send it to 258. Quantize the analog output is better. Okay. So we have that. What I want to do now is to cascade that so the result of that sample and hold is going to be the input of the second one. This one is going to be sampled only every 8 steps, let's say. I will send that to a second channel of the quantizer. Send that to another 258. I could do it on a different rhythm. I just added a step. Now let's trigger some envelopes. This is fun. And you could repeat that process as many times as you want. But I will leave it like this for now, for the sake of simplicity. That's it. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Many thanks to Tiptop Audio for making those wonderful 200T series module. If you want to support the channel, I suggest you go have a look at my Patreon page, where you will find some samples from this session and from all the other sessions before this one, which is a lot, and also from the ones to come. You can also grab some teaching from my Patreon if you're interested. And you can also buy some stuff from the affiliate links in the description, as well as going on Bandcamp and just listen to some music that I've made, either under my alias Stasma, Repeat Eater, or under my own name, Julien Guillot. I also encourage you to check out my label, Concrete Collage, where I release some music from my friends and people that I like. That's it. Many thanks again for watching, and see you next time. Bye-bye.